Hello everyone, it's Attack72 here, and for today, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, while it isn't far from being a perfect film, or basically saying it's one of the best, I will say that it is a phenomenal film for those that love Sonic, and for those that are getting into the franchise. Sonic 3 is truly one of Sega's most well-done projects out there, and especially with the help of Paramount. And with the fourth film releasing in about a couple years, that means we got a lot of time to think of what exactly this fourth film could all be about. So in this video, I'm going to be predicting and more so talked about on what could likely happen next in the fourth Sonic film. Now it's only pretty early in 2025, and I know we're only a couple years away, but hey, I've done this before with Sonic 2 when Sonic 3 was coming out, so I don't really mind doing the same thing with this fourth film. Before I start, I want to let you know that this will be a massive spoiler for those that have not seen the third film. You likely have been spoiled already from like the different types of Twitter posts and a lot of different types of things you see on TikTok, but this video, I will let you know, will contain a lot of major spoilers from Sonic 3, and given the fact that the third film will be released digitally on digital services in a couple weeks, which is weirdly fast for the fact that Paramount decides to release it way earlier than expected. But still, I hope you guys enjoy this. If you don't want to see any spoilers, I recommend getting out of the video, watch the film, or probably wait till, January 21st when it fully released on maybe Paramount Plus, then come back to the video. But I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's talk about on what exactly it could likely happen for the future of the Sonic film series and the fourth film. Starting off with the two major characters that would appear in the future, Amy Rose and Metal Sonic. Let's kind of start with Amy Rose first, which first, design-wise, I really like. I like how it almost looks so resemblance to the game. You got the Pico Pico hammer looking like the hammer, which is great. Then, I also noticed a couple things. First off, Amy's tuft of hair. Instead of the 3 strands that you see from the games, it now has a few more strands of hair to kind of make her feel distinct from everyone else. Then there's also the pink arms, meaning the fact that she will indeed have a character design with pink arms. Given the fact that Sonic has blue arms, it's not surprising that Amy, who is a hedgehog, is also going to have colored arms. Now, the thing about this though is that this could likely be the final design, not like design-wise or clone-wise, it's more so appearance-wise. I mean, we gotta remember from the fact that Tails and Shadow, while they were great on their first design, it was noticeable that some of them look really off, which is why it took a couple years for them to get a full-on redesign in order to match with the game appearances. For Amy, I don't really think there isn't much they could redesign, especially from the fact that she looks perfectly fine by me. The only thing they haven't decided yet is both the dress and the voice actress. Just like Shadow, his voice is being remain ambiguous, and it wasn't revealed to be Keanu Reeves about a couple years later. For Amy, though, it is a bit difficult on who exactly is going to be voicing Amy in this one. That isn't Cindy Robinson. But there is one particular actress that I would think fit the character perfectly, that being Shannon Chan Kent. And for those that don't know, Shannon was an actress that actually appeared in the first Sonic film as that waitress from the tavern. And not only does she appear in the first film, but she also appears as the voice of Amy in the show Sonic Prime. So not only would it be a nice callback to bring back an old actress who is already experienced with the film series before, but it could also be a great provision and a provider of voicing Amy Rose, who she had already voiced in another type of Sonic media. So I would think she's a perfect fit for it. If not, then I would be really surprised that they didn't choose her at all. But really, in terms of the character and design, it's great that it almost looks pretty similarly to her game appearances, of course with a few tweaks. Now, in terms of her role and what it could really be about, from what we've seen from the post-credit scene, Amy seems to be more capable of fighting for herself rather than her being a typical damsel in distress. Now, the thing that bothers a lot of people is regarding about Amy's personality, how people are very worried about her being another movie Peach situation, where in the Mario film, she was mostly seen as a badass character, but didn't really have much flaws put into her. And according to some Peach fans, from what I've seen, it didn't really feel like Princess Peach at all, and people were wondering that it could likely be the same problem for Amy. I don't really think that's going to be the case because given that they've perfectly adapted Knuckles and Shadow's story pretty well into the films, I don't think that would be the same for Amy. Sure, she would not be a damsel in distress, but she can basically become a badass character while still retaining her cheerfulness and also her crush towards Sonic. She is a fangirl towards the Hedgehog after all, but I don't really think it would be the same situation as a Peach situation as ever. But yeah, that's all I can really say about Amy, and now moving on from the character, let's talk about the second one that appeared in the post-credit scene and would likely be a more major character than I initially thought, Metal Sonic. Now, first of all, I want to mention I really love how Metal Sonic's design is basically a one-on-one recreation from the games. Like, there's no unique take, like, there's no unique design that makes him stand out from the original counterpart. That is straight up just a one-on-one copy from the game version, and that's what I appreciate. Sure, there may be some small details that kind of makes it look unique, but overall, that is basically just Metal Sonic, and I love it for that. Now, in terms of the role it is, we don't exactly know why he was sent to attack Sonic. In the post-credit scene, Metal Sonic appears in like some type of flash of light, making me think that there's some type of time traveling involved, which that would be a major point whenever I get to the plot segment. But Metal Sonic, from what we've seen, is able to clone himself. He has a bunch of clones, meaning there is a huge amount of things that is left unquestioned. Now, unanswered, I mean. But the question I want to ask is, will Metal Sonic even talk at all? Metal Sonic only talked at least once, if I recall, being in Sonic Heroes. And if anything, if Metal Sonic is ever going to talk, then I would presume yes, if only the main one is talking. Given that there is a bunch of clones here, it would pretty much make sense for Metal Sonic to be kind of a main focus, because there's another character that I am kind of in the middle of in terms of returning at all. But as for right now, Metal Sonic could likely be the main villain in this one, whereas Shadow was mostly advertised as like a force of nature and mostly a secondary antagonist. I think we all know what happened at the very end of the film, but really, Metal Sonic is definitely more different than Shadow, where instead of him being a secondary antagonist, I could basically see Metal Sonic as the main villain focus in the fourth film, and there's a good reason why when I get to the plot segment. Now, as for the character I mentioned that would be returning, it's in a weird position at the moment, and that was being Dr. Robotnik, who was played by Jim Carrey. We all know in the third film that he was able to play two characters in this film, Gerald Robotnik and, of course, Dr. Robotnik. Now, the thing about Eggman in this one is that if you all saw the film, you would know that Eggman has sacrificed himself inside the Eclipse Canyon, and as of right now, we don't know whether his whereabouts is seemingly dead. But the thing is that in a recent interview, in a Japanese interview, Jim Carrey has stated that he would basically be taking a power nap rather than basically retiring, because he's going to retire at some point as an actor. Heck, he's actually been retired for a while. But he mostly came back for Sonic 3 because of an incredible script provided to him. So, depending on how great the script is for Sonic 4, then Jim Carrey would return. But he also stated in that same interview that not only would he not be retiring at all, but he is also open to return as a character, being Eggman again for Sonic 4, which not only shows that this is like one of the few times where Jim Carrey plays a character more than once, but that means Dr. Eggman is most likely to return. The only question is, how exactly is Eggman going to return? I mean, he sacrificed himself, and the Eclipse Canyon literally exploded right in front of everybody, including Stone, who had pretty much witnessed that whole downfall. And given that Stone is now by himself, I don't really think he has any need to return and is mostly on his own leisure. But if Eggman ever returns, then there might at least be a good explanation as to how he's able to return. Sure, it would undermine a lot of his character arc, given the fact of the way his sacrifice ended. It felt like a more complete arc, but if he ever comes back, I don't think he would be as evil to attack or kill Sonic. I think he would just be more of the goofy, sort of intimidating scientist as he was, like in the games. And not just that, if I'm gonna be honest, this is Eggman we're talking about. Eggman survived at least 2 encounters with gods, has his own creation betrayed him, and was stuck in the void of space and time with his other past self. So really, I don't think this is new that Eggman just randomly coming back, despite some people assuming that he died. It's not new at this point. So really, if they decided to find a way to bring back Eggman, then it better be at least a good explanation as to how he is able to come back. Though there is another character who is also named Eggman, but that is something I won't really talk about unless they wanted to do something crazy. I mean, they've already done that with Gerald Robotnik. I don't see why they wouldn't do that with the other version of Eggman as well. Now let's talk about the plots. Now, Sonic Adventure 2 takes so many elements into the third film, from the final battle, Live and Learn, City Escape, even though that music was very subtle, and basically takes many things that comes from Sonic Adventure 2. So, with this fourth film, this could likely mean that with the addition of Amy and Metal Sonic, maybe this could be a chance that we could most likely see a iteration of Sonic CD, the second in the series' franchise. Now, the thing about Sonic CD is that Amy is a damsel in distress in this one. In the fourth film, it was likely that we won't get to see her get captured in the slightest. So, and if time travel is ever going to be a thing in this fourth film, then it would basically explain as to how Eggman was able to come back. Eggman must have likely had some chaos energy infused with the Eclipse Canyon, and then once it exploded, it likely sent them either in the future or probably in the past, or probably something like that, maybe some time travel shenanigans. And what's more interesting is that there was a concept art recently that came out, and it showed Sonic and Shadow fighting in space, and right in the background, you can see the Eclipse Cannon able to hit Earth. And we all know what the Eclipse Cannon can do. It destroyed Earth entirely, but then, hit the moon instead. But in this concept art, it seems that the moon did not get hit, and instead Earth was the one that got devastated by the canyon. So, if time travel is ever a thing, then Eggman could likely return and be to a future where that's how, where the Earth was more destroyed by the cannon, and that's how Metal Sonic was able to come to fruition. I mean, after all, we gotta remember, Eggman has been taking a lot of Sonic's strands of hair in order for his experiments, so it would make sense as to how Metal Sonic even came to be. And eventually, maybe we could see Metal Sonic be the main focus by betraying Eggman, kind of like how it was in Sonic Heroes, where it seemed Eggman was the one plotting a lot of these schemes, where it turns out to be Neo Metal Sonic, a form of Metal Sonic, all controlling the plot behind the strings. And if the final battle could likely come in order, then that would mean there would be a big final battle against Metal Sonic, and with the clones, it could be a huge fight with Metal Overlord. I mean, plus, the third film didn't really explain what happened to the Chaos Emeralds right after, after the final battle. They never really explained if it fused back into the Master Emerald. It's all questions that are left unanswered. But maybe it could be a mix of both CD and Sonic Heroes. There is a lot they could take from, but these are the most notable games I have to mention. And next up, there is another character that I want to talk about. A character that I kind of failed to mention until now, and that was Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, if you didn't know, there was actually 2 post-credit scenes in the third film. And the first one obviously was with Amy and Metal Sonic, but the second one, it has been confirmed that Shadow the Hedgehog is indeed alive. Where unlike the games where he did die in Sonic Adventure 2, and this one, Shadow returns into Earth, and it seems to be a good sign of what's to come. The thing about Shadow is that we don't exactly know what they have plans for Shadow, but if we're gonna go by in order, then according to Idris Elba, he basically explained that he wanted to have a show that is focused on both Knuckles and Shadow. Kind of like what the Knuckles show did last April, where it mostly focused on Knuckles. Well, kinda. And if anything, if they're not gonna be doing a Knuckles show, and instead they'll do a Knuckles and Shadow focus show, then that was something to be interesting, as we get to see a lot of explorations as to how Shadow was able to go into Gun. I mean, in the games, I don't really think they explained how Shadow even joined Gun to begin with, so this would be a nice way to kind of explain this version of Shadow as to how he's able to join Gun to begin with. And we could also see some other characters come and go, like Rock Rockwell, who honestly didn't really have much of a big presence in the third film, despite the fact that she felt like she was going to be a main character or more so a main focus of some sort. But if anything, if they're not going to do a Knuckles and Shadow show and instead do a second season of Knuckles, then that means we could see the return of Wade, though at least more lessened than what we have, because as much as I love Wade, he did take a lot of the screen time for what is a show that is weirdly called Knuckles. So if anything, there is a lot of opportunities to bring in the series into what it is. And heck, with the addition of Shadow now into the series, that means we could see a introduction of Rouge the Bat. Though, if I'm gonna be honest, I think Rouge being here would likely take a lot away of the spotlight from Amy Rose. As much as I want to see the funny interactions between her, Shadow, and Knuckles, I think it's best to leave her off until Amy and Metal Sonic gets their time to shine. If anything, Shadow and Knuckles could have some good chemistry with each other. We don't really see the two interact as much in the game, so if I'm gonna be honest. Now, as for the music, the thing that really bothers me the most about the music is that obviously most of it are licensed music. The third film did at least improve with its music, though very subtly. Like, Live and Learn is mostly the main focus, but then you got things like City Escape, which first off, I didn't even know that music was in the film until the credits segment, where it reveals City Escape was in there, until I realized it was in the London segment for like 2 seconds, and then there was the ringtone, which had the Eggman theme from Sonic 06, and then there was also the Green Hill, or the Clear X Zone, Clear, or whatever. Pretty much my point is that the music for Sonic did at least somewhat improve, but it doesn't exactly help from the fact that they were only used very, very, very less. And the person who was behind this, Junkie XL, you can really tell that he refuses to not use Sonic music at all, but instead use different types of music. Like, he is able to use Sonic music, that's the weird thing, but he refuses not to. I get it's the decision, but if the Mario movie is able to give Nintendo and Mario related music, I don't see the issue for this one. So if the Sonic 4 film can learn anything from Sonic 3, it's that Sonic music has to come into this fourth film. If not, at this point, why am I even asking for a change? And now, I know this segment seems a bit ahead, given the fact that the fourth film may not confirm a fifth eventually, but given the fact that Paramount and Sega has no motive to slow down at this point, and that the director of the films, Jeff Fowler, is really passionate, I would really love to see Silver at some point in the future. Maybe not in like this film, but mostly a focus in the fifth one. Who knows really, but I'm just getting ahead of myself. But that's all I could really say about the fourth Sonic film. We are only a couple years away, so it's going to take quite a while, but if I'm learning anything, is that Sega and Paramount knows that this franchise is becoming a huge point of what Sonic is today. It saved the franchise, it became one of the best well-known video game adaptations of all time, and I can't wait to see what they have more in the future. Whenever Sega, Paramount, or even Jeff Fowler has planned for the film franchise in the future, I will be there for it, and I will be sure to cover as much as I can, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you all think in the comment section below. What do you all think might happen in this fourth film? Do you think there's going to be a lot of elements taken from the Sonic games? Do you think there's going to be more references than we usually do? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below about this. And so with that, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more videos, follow my Twitter, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember this, once a legend, always a legend.